What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Make It Kustom. It just kind of dawned on me that we have not done a shop tour of the new shop. So I was finishing up kind of our little hangout spot upstairs, and I hung some little string lights up everywhere. Figured it was a good time to show you guys since it's kind of clean right now. So let's do a shop tour today. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications, and let's get into it. So right here, we've sort of set up more of like a sheet metal working area. I try and make things, like when I set things up, I want there to be a place for everything. I'm trying to think ahead as to how I'm going to use the space, what's the best way to use the space, you know, how can I lay out the tools so that they're easily accessible all the time. So we've got the shear, the brake, the roller, the notcher, we've got the Shape-O-Matic hammer. I haven't bolted that down yet, but we will be building a second Shape-O-Matic hammer very soon. We just got it in the mail, so look out for that video. Shout out to Sosa Metalworks. I know that he might be doing some YouTube stuff in the future, maybe. So if it's a few months after this video is done, look him up, Sosa Metalworks. Anyway, we got the bead roller, the English wheel, shrinker stretcher, kind of my metalworking station here. A lot of guys ask me about this station and what it's all about, and basically it's from Princess Auto, which is our Canadian version of Harbor Freight, and a friend of mine bought this kind of whole setup that included the stand and then a bunch of dollies and T-dollies and hammers and that sort of thing. He wasn't super into the stand itself, so he gave me the stand and he kept all the accessories. Well, I thought the stand was pretty cool because it's got all these extra posts to put things and hammer holders and a vise spot, that sort of thing. So I was like really stoked that he hooked me up with it. And then I just added to it so that I had more spots to hold hammers, more spots to hold dollies, and just more places to work. So this little stand, it's kind of messy, but it does work really well because I can take this out of here and I can stick it here. I can put my sandbag on the top here. I can put my hammers there. It just kind of holds all those loose things that I use for sheet metal. So I really like this stand. And since it's been here, I've kind of collected more hammers, more dollies, that sort of thing. So I can kind of do a little bit of everything with that. We've got my planishing hammers. These are the two prototypes. We're working on the full production run of our planishing hammers right now. If you're interested in these hammers, a lot of guys ask me, well, it's japhandskustoms.com. I don't say it enough. I pretty much don't say it ever on Make It Kustom, the YouTube channel, but our website is always in the description at the bottom, and you can go there for our merch or our planishing hammers or whatever else we're going to bring out in the future. That's where you can go for that sort of stuff. japhandskustoms with a K.com. Anyway, as we move along, we've got my workbench. I like to have a wood top bench for doing sheet metal things. You don't always want a metal top so that you don't scratch the crap out of things. And I drill through my metal sometimes and I'll go right into the wood. It's kind of nice not to have to worry about marking up your tabletop because it's easy enough to replace a piece of plywood. And then underneath I store all of my scraps, that sort of thing. I got disc sander, belt sander. And while I'm going through this, keep in mind, all these tools are old. I pick them up used. I'm always looking for deals that way because if you can stretch your money a little bit farther, that just means that you get to buy more tools. So I'm always looking for deals on that. And every tool in here has never been retail price. I've always been able to find it at estate sales, garage sales, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, that sort of thing. So don't get too discouraged when you see the prices of new tools because you can obtain those capabilities for cheaper if you keep an eye out for the deals. There's lots of people that try metalworking that give up on it and they sell their tools, so keep an eye out for that stuff. And basically all the most common things I use, I try and hang them up on the wall. Got a couple of drill presses. I don't use my drill presses as much as I used to since I've got the mill. The mill is kind of the best drill press I've ever owned, so I use the mill a lot more than I use the drill presses. This one I actually haven't even wired it up yet. It's one of my more recent acquisitions. It's a Swedish gear drive drill press, so it's got a quick change gearbox. So I can actually, instead of changing belts and messing around with tensions and that sort of thing, it's got a gearbox that tells you your exact spindle speed for whatever position these levers are in. So that's one that's gonna definitely stay with me. It's a bit of a more high quality piece, but again, it was used as, a fraction of the cost of a new one. Same deal with the mill. I got it for a great deal. I think it was a couple $1,000 Canadian, but it's a Bridgeport knockoff, but a decent quality Bridgeport knockoff. It's a first brand milling machine. Longchang machinery. It's made in Taiwan. It's a great knee mill. It does all the pivots in all different directions, all different axes, and I love using that. One tool that I got last year, if you come around here and check this thing out, if you've seen the knuckle, the knuckle, what am I?
Brass knuckle.
The brass knuckle video. Thank you, Christina. Brain farts today. I use this thing a lot in it, and it's called a die filer. And basically this machine it's almost like a jigsaw or a scroll saw, where it has a mechanism that just moves straight up and down, and it takes all kinds of different shaped files that clamp in there, so that if you had to go inside of a hole or anything, you could slip your piece in, put the file through it, and clamp it on the top and bottom, and you'd be able to file it. The other beautiful thing is that it's for die makers. So this is like pre-CNC stuff. Like if you're gonna make dies for any kind of machinery, you could use this and be very precise with it. You could use the blue layout fluid and scribe whatever shape that you need to cut for a die, like a punch or whatever, using tool steel, and then carve that shape with the die filer, and then send it out for heat treating, put it in your punch press or whatever. The beautiful thing about this is it's got a tilting bed that you can actually put different angles and be relatively precise with it. That's what it's for. And in the metal shaping industry, you may see them in I've noticed them in other people's shops as well, is they work really great for making profile dies for something like a Pullmax or any kind of profile shaping hammer. And that's why I picked it up. I saw it and I knew exactly what it was, and I've just never seen them come up for sale, so I scored it for a pretty good deal. But it's pretty old too. I think it's like 80 or 90 years old and still works awesome. I've got this Kirkus lathe. It hasn't been cleaned up since we moved. There's a little bit of water on it. I got to get it off of there. But this is like a South Bend lathe that's manufactured in Australia, and apparently it's even a little bit more high quality than a South Bend lathe, or that's what I'm told anyway. But they are identical basically. They're quick change gearbox and just a great little lathe. Takes 3/4 inch tooling. Believe it or not, I scored this thing for 150 bucks. It was either 100 bucks. I think it was 100 bucks. And I messaged the guy and I was like, I'll give you 150, because like the guy's probably got 1,000 messages at $100. I saw it when it was an 11-minute old ad, and just told him like, I will take it 100%, like whatever it takes, like I'm coming right now. I was already in my truck and driving there before he even messaged me back. So the deals do come up. Like, can you believe that? Like 150 bucks? It's crazy, it's crazy. Drill press. This table is actually a milling machine bed, and getting big heavy tables for doing fabrication, that's always a tough thing to find. So I'm always on the lookout for those things. So if you're trying to be in this industry, there's always ways. This is like a $200 table that I'm sure is probably what it's worth in scrap metal. This is 3 inches thick, solid T-slotted, heavy duty table. And the reason I picked it up is not just to be a bench or a shelf. The reason I picked it up is it's a really great size for a motorcycle frame jig. And that's a future project. I'm gonna be building a diesel supercharged, turbocharged motorcycle, and that's the table I'm gonna use, I think. Here's a cool tool that I haven't used since I got the CNC plasma. Actually, that's not true. If I have to do anything thicker than my CNC plasma can do, which is I think about 1/2 inch or so thick, I use this. And this is basically the precursor to CNC. This is a oxy-fuel pattern tracer. And basically what it is that you bolt a pattern into the head of this, and this drives itself around the pattern, cutting it out with the oxyacetylene torch. And my whole hot rod, all the pieces on there, all my 4-link brackets, all my cantilever systems, all those tabs, anything I had to have multiples of, it was easier for me to carve out a template out of 1/8 thick material, steel, and then duplicate it multiple times using this machine. And that's just, it's really fun to use actually, because it's kind of a little bit finicky. You gotta watch it, make sure that it doesn't, do a little bit of a burnout as it's going, make sure that the travel speed still works well, and how it's set up so that it gets really clean cut. But believe me, it gets a really clean cut. And I've cut things as thick as an inch thick solid steel to use for hammer forming. I hammer formed 14 gauge steel over 1-inch thick plate to make body mounts for a pickup truck one time. If you look far enough back on my Instagram, you might find the video, but that's what that machine is all about. Bandsaw. This one I haven't restored or fixed up yet because my horizontal bandsaw does go vertical and I put a plate on it so I can have a vertical bandsaw, but you see that right there? Free, still runs. It was free. I was rolling around, I think in an industrial complex, I think I turned the wrong corner or something. And this thing was on the side of the road. And it's not just a regular bandsaw, like you see these kinds of bandsaws all the time, but the difference between a wood one and a steel one is the speed. So this has an extra pulley drive system to gear it down a little bit slower so that it's good for metal. If you just take a normal wood bandsaw and stick a metal blade on it, you're just gonna burn through blades because it's got the wrong speed on it. So this is an actual metal bandsaw that I'm gonna restore one day. I'm a bit of a tool junkie slash hoarder, if you know what I mean. This old lathe is a behemoth. It's made in Poland. It's a wartime lathe. You know, it's seen better days, but it all still works great. And for any heavy duty type, you know, turning that I do, I use this machine. But that's kind of the walkthrough as far as what the equipment's like. The way we set up the shop with air, some people were asking, is how did you do your air system? I'm not really an expert in that. I just try and get air to all the places that I need them. So I put these little pods everywhere that have my reels on it, and I had my plumber buddy come make an air dryer for me. And what it is, it's right behind this air compressor. Actually, Christina, let's go have a look at it. You might not be able to fully see it, but I'll try and explain it the best I can. The main thing when you're talking about an air system for a shop is water. You don't want water in your air. It eats consumables for plasma cutters. It washes away oil in your air tools. It's bad for if you're trying to paint anything. So what these copper tubes are is a way of condensing the air so that it gets the water out of it. So basically, when your compressor pumps the air, and we could even make this system a little bit better by adding a cooler, like almost like a radiator in between the line from the pump into the tank, because that heats up a lot. And when hot air meets cold, it condenses and creates water. So that's what those copper tubes are. They're about 6 feet long. They go from the compressor tank up, down, over into an air dryer, like a desiccant filter, back up, down into another desiccant filter, back up, down into another desiccant filter, and that is trying to trap as much water as possible. And it does do a pretty good job of trapping water, and that's something that you can make just at Home Depot. Those desiccant filters were 50 bucks on Amazon. If you look on there, they're Ingersoll Rand desiccant filters. They're 50 bucks Canadian, so if you're in America, they're probably only 35 bucks. And then just 6-foot lengths of copper tubing. You need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. 2 half pieces there, and you can make yourself a really good air dryer for about 200 bucks. So that's how we did that. Quick rundown on the projects in the shop right now. We got my truck, we got this van. Those aren't really projects, but we've got the 31 Model A Roadster that we've been working on. Hasn't seen a lot of action lately. Hugo, I'm sorry, but we are gonna get back on it real soon. We've got my wife's, we got Christina's 60 Cadillac. This thing's been body dropped. The reason being is that it's going to be the lowest Cadillac in all the land. That is the objective of this car. It's going to be on hydraulics, and the body drop has now made the body lower than the frame. So after we put it on hydraulics, it's going to sit totally flat, right on the ground. There's going to be a couple other cool custom body mods to come that you've never seen before on a 60 Cadillac, I guarantee it. The other project back here is the 1939 Lincoln Zephyr. This is my, I guess you could say, dream cars, you know. It's just a 4-door 39 Lincoln Zephyr, but they're very rare. They've got this beautiful airflow, you know, styling to them that can only really be found on a Lincoln Zephyr. There's not one straight line on this car. They're powered by a Lincoln V12. This particular one has all been rebuilt mechanically, so that's perfect for me because it's not my forte. Metalwork is what I love to do, and this is gonna be a ton of metalwork, changing it into a 3-window coupe. That is the plan. I'm gonna metal shape all those panels. I'm not taking any pieces from a real coupe hen's teeth to find. Good luck finding anything like that. I'm pretty sure a trunk lid, if you could find them, would be like $5 grand. There's just no way. So I'm gonna make a trunk, I'm gonna make the catwalk, I'm gonna make the roof, I'm gonna do all that this year coming up. I'm itching, and there's a few guys on here. If you're new to the channel, maybe you're not itching, but there's some guys that have been with us for a while. And every video, whether it be about this or not, there's somebody's talking about it. Like, when are you gonna work on the Zephyr? We're waiting for the Zephyr. Well, I'm gonna make time for it, I promise. We're gonna get onto it and start cutting it up, changing its shape. So yeah, those are the projects. On to the next. When we set up the shop, the main thing that I always think about is storage, because if you don't have a place to put something, then it's never gonna go back there. I'm not the greatest at keeping things super clean. So in the shop, it's really, really important. Yeah, so we put up lots of racking. We got these great boxes that, you know, I can stack stuff in, we can store stuff. When we moved to our last shop, I picked up a forklift, this little forklift. I think it was like $400. Battery's almost dead, but I only use it for 10 minutes at a time, so it's got enough battery for me. And it's perfect size for this shop. It's nice and tight. It lifts all the machines that are in here, even the big lathe. It lifts it no problem. It's actually got a 4,500 pound lifting capacity. The only thing I gotta be careful of is I can't go outside with it. At the old shop, as soon as we offloaded it from the truck, it broke right through the asphalt. So it's got a single wheel at the back, so 4,500 pound counterweight is all on that wheel. But anyway, forget about that. Let's go have a look at this situation. So in an effort to create more space, the more space the better, no matter what. If you move into a shop, you're always gonna fill it up. So I tried to make really good use of the space, because you gotta have a place to hang out with your buddies. So upstairs is a little bit of a hangout. We'll kind of end the video there. But I made a little bit of a tool room, a place where I can, you know, store all the tools, any of my hardware, tape, like all the consumables, that kind of stuff. It's all in here. It's all kind of in its own area. That's what's in here. That's all it really is. I try and make a place for everything, so everything has a place to go back to. You know, when you do a cleanup, if you have to think about where you're gonna put it, well, you know, it's never gonna go back in the same place twice. So this little spot is for the CNC plasma cutter. It's good that it's kind of low ceiling. We shoved a big 12-inch fan into the wall to try and evacuate some of the smoke and stuff. I might put a curtain up here so that it really pulls the smoke through. This shop doesn't have any windows or ventilation, so we put an intake fan, same size, a 12-inch one in the back corner. And then, yeah, so we put one here. So hopefully we get a little bit of a cross flow and it'll be a little healthier for our lungs. Yeah, we got the little hydraulic brake press. Some guys have asked me about that. Where'd you get your press brake attachment, that sort of thing. I actually built this press brake attachment because they're really expensive, unless, shameless plug here for Swag Off-Road, if you're watching, what's up? I like your stuff. I think it's cool that you guys make tools that are affordable, because there's a lot of hobbyists out there that don't have the cash to spend thousands of dollars on brake presses. So if you want a brake press like this, check out Swag Off-Road. Like, they don't pay me for anything, and I just like their stuff. So they have kits so that you can build yourself a brake press that comes with the springs, the dies, all that kind of stuff, and they're reasonably priced. So this one I actually scored because the tooling is the most expensive part. This four-sided die, you know, you've got the different sizes for different thicknesses of material. Like you could probably do 1/4 inch in there. You know, you can do thinner stuff in here. The dies are what are really expensive, but actually, I really scored. Actually made money buying the dies. A guy was selling a 10-foot piece of upper die and I think a 7-foot piece of lower die for $100. Like, that's ridiculous. If you've ever looked at those dies, that's absolutely ridiculous. I took my 2-foot chunk from the top and bottom and I sold the rest off for I think like $700 or $800. So I made money. I made like $500 buying this guy's die. And the reason being is that he borrowed a brake press that didn't have dies, so he had to get his own dies, and when he gave the brake press back, the guy was, I guess, a bit of a jerk to him, so, or he was renting it or something, and he didn't want to give him the dies back, so he was just gonna scrap them. So I gave him a little bit of money and I took him home. But if you're gonna make one of these and you found yourself some dies and you're not buying Swag Off-Road's kit, the easiest way to do it is by buying plates and sandwiching them together, and that's, before I had a mill, how I got the slot in the center here. These are 3 pieces of flat bar that are sandwiched together so that the tang, it's like a 1/2 inch tab that's on top of these, how the die locks in, can slip inside there. So I've just put a bunch of 3/8 set screws, and I've cut the die into multiple sizes so that I can get all kinds of different stuff in there. And then I just made these stops using nuts and ready rod of 1 inch fine thread steel. And I think the springs are actually custom made for these. I had to pony up for the springs because I couldn't find a spring that would have enough travel and be strong enough to hold that upper die up. But that's a kind of a quick rundown on that. A bunch of you guys have asked me as well about plasma cutting. I haven't put out any videos on how to do CNC plasma cutting because it's just not something super common. I don't know that a lot of our viewers are into that sort of stuff, but I'll probably do it in the future since I've been asked. But just to shout out to you guys what programs I use a program called Draft Site. That is what I do all my drawings in, all my DXF files, so that I can put them to Lazy Cam. It's the cam software that turns your DXF file or whatever drawing you have into a cut file so that the plasma cutter knows what tool paths to use. So Draft Site is basically a less expensive version of AutoCAD. It's kind of like the old AutoCAD software before the newest version. That's what Draft Site is. Since I'm only working in 2D, it works awesome. I think you can do 3D with it as well, but I'm just a 2D guy. I just got into this stuff, so it works well for me. And then I use Lazy Cam. So Draft Site, I make my drawings, I put them onto a USB stick. I take them from my drawing computer and I put them into this one. This computer is a Windows XP garage sale $40 computer. It's nothing, and the reason being is that the software that I use, which is Mach 3 to run the CNC table, it, for whatever reason, really likes Windows XP. Like, I don't know why, but it's basically using a computer as your CNC controller, which you don't need a computer for it, but they're 40 bucks, you know, at a garage sale because they're 15 years old, and it works perfectly. So that's what I use: Draft Site, Lazy Cam, and Mach 3. The CNC table itself, a few guys have asked me about, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. Again, I bought it used. I bought it for about the same cost as what it would take to buy just the plasma cutter. I think I paid 6,500 bucks for the table, including a newer Hypertherm. That's what they are. Yeah, Hypertherm PowerMax 65. So it's a 65 amp plasma cutter that I use with the table, and I can cut up to, you know, 1/2 inch. I think you can even do 3/4 inch if you really want to, but I've never needed it. And it works really well. It works awesome. The beautiful thing about an older machine like this is they used to sell, and they still do sell, kits that you can build your own plasma table. That's what this is. This is, I think it has a tag on it somewhere. It's some, you know, cheap CNC thing, but all these parts that make this CNC table are modular, and what that means is that you can just buy them on their own, and you can modify them or make them however you want, like the stepper motors, the linear gears, the rails here, the bearings, all that stuff is quite standardized so that you can buy pieces and make one. Or if there was anything wrong with this, which there was, you know, it was demonstrated for me when I bought it. As soon as I got it home, it didn't work. And I couldn't figure out why. I had multiple people out because I had no idea what I was looking at. Couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. And eventually we found out that it was just a driver within its sort of brain. So even the drivers are their little circuit boards. I don't know what I'm looking at when I look at a circuit board. You know, if you're anything like me, I don't know what it is. You know, electrical engineers know that stuff, not me. But we were able to test it and just buy another circuit board. It was like $40 fix. The whole little circuit board panel that it needed, which was the driver, that driver was cheap. It was nothing. It was 40 bucks. So once we figured it out, it was no big deal. Anyway, that's a little rundown on the CNC. Let's go upstairs. If you don't know my truck by now, this is my truck. This is my baby. This is my truck. It's a 38 Dodge. There's a video on it if you haven't seen it. I'm gonna try and get more content out about this truck this year. Metal Reborn is a video, film documentary made by Speedline Filmworks all about this build. And if you're interested at all in it, definitely check it out. Speedline Filmworks has a YouTube channel where there's a whole bunch of info on that truck. It's a 38 Dodge open wheeler. The van, this is the Excalibur Survivor van. We just picked it up at auction and we've been cleaning it up and deciding where it's gonna go, who's gonna be the next caretaker of this thing, whether or not it's gonna go back to the original owner, Steve Ree, and his friends that built it. It was really cool that we got to actually get in contact with all 4 of the original guys that built this van back in the day. So we've got some content coming out more about that later. But yeah, let's go check out the little hangout spot. Like I said, we're gonna have like a little Christmas party here in the next few days, so we wanted to make it comfortable. And Christina and I, we kind of live sort of out there, a little bit further away from a lot of our friends, so we wanted to make it comfortable for when they come hang out, you know, so that they want to stay and that they want to come hang out. Yeah, I've got my little barber chair, my little old fridge, a bunch of, Christina's an amazing photographer. She's got a really keen eye and she's really good at editing. So we've got some of her pictures up on the wall. A couple little antiques from just over the years. This is a neat piece that I found in a buddy of mine. If you're local, you know this guy. His name is Ross McLeod. He's the Model A guru of the Lower Mainland. Shout out to Ross McLeod. I don't know if he has YouTube, but what's up, Ross? This was in his barn one time when I was looking at parts and I was like, what are you doing with that? Like, what is that? It's all metal. Somebody, I think, has added trim off of a car onto it. You know, like this stuff, I just love it. It's got patina and it's got soul. You know, somebody's made it really cool. It's total Art Deco. I assume it's, you know, from the 30s or something like that, just based on the stampings and that kind of Art Deco shape that it's all about. Made this table a while back. This is just an old wire wheel and a spare tire on the bottom. This is actually where I got the idea of what wheels to use on the hot rod. If you look closely, the wheels on my hot rod are actually spare tires from Astrovans in the mid-90s. All-wheel drive Astrovans had an 18-inch steel spare tire on them that was 5-bolt, 5-on-5 bolt pattern. And the reason I know that is because I built this table many, many years ago. So when I decided to go with bigger wheels on the hot rod, when we redid it all, I just went to junkyards and I looked around and I tried to collect 4 of those wheels. They actually look way older than they are. But yeah, this is our little hangout spot. Oh, here you go. This is what I was talking about with Metal Reborn, Speedline Filmworks. That's the movie poster from that. Metal Reborn. That was a really fun time. So a bunch of those guys are gonna come to our Christmas party, hopefully. And we're gonna have some fun. We got something that I've been kind of holding on to for a really long time. This is gonna make its way onto the hot rod, or that's the plan anyway, is I wanna do a 6-deuce Stromberg 97 6-deuce on top of a 471 and jam that onto the 38 Dodge. So it's been sitting in here patiently waiting, and the van may or may not get that steering wheel on it. This dude Travis, he has Big Ron's steering wheel on Instagram. If you're into this sort of thing, he hand makes these wheels. Octagon wheels, like all kinds of custom wheels, basically specifically for boogie vans, and they're just deadly. So I won that at a raffle, and I thought he was in California based on his Instagram posts, but found out that he was actually local, and we had mutual friends, so he personally dropped that off to me when I won his raffle. But it needs a home, it needs a boogie van home, so it may or may not go on that boogie van. Christina, do you remember this thing? Do you remember where we got that? Were we killing time in Arizona or something like that? Okay, here's a short story. I used to live in Arizona for about 8 months. We were building motorcycles down there. We were building motorcycles up here, and then long story short, we got a TV show with History Channel for a short time, not me myself, but the shop that I worked for. So I was on there for, 15 seconds here and there. But I used to live down there while I was dating Christina. This is before we got married. After we got married, we were gonna go live down in Arizona, but I quit my job and moved back home and started Japhands. So that's the long and short of it. But I remember we were waiting for Christina's plane and just checking out stuff around, and there was this army surplus place, and I walked in there, and right in front of the door was one of these things. And my buddy, I got a buddy who has one, and I think I have two buddies that have them. And these are actually just practice bombs from back in the day for like target practice. That's why it's got a different nose cone on it, is that they would just drop them empty for target practice in the desert. And so people pick them up and whatever. But I just thought it was really cool, So yeah, I like weird, old, rusty junk. And that's what we put all around us. So yeah, I think that's it. There's my barber chair. Saved it from scrap. Gotta make a new pump handle for it, but I do a lot of thinking in there. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. If you guys have any questions for me about the shop, about the tools, about anything, just hit me up. I'll try and answer them. It's really easy for me to answer comments that are questions. If you ask me a question, I always try and answer the questions first, because I get a lot of comments, and I used to be able to get all of them and reply to every single one or like all the comments. But what I try and do now is I try and hit every question. So if you ask me a question, I try and answer it best I can, and then I go through and do as many comments as I can within a couple hours every morning. That's how much time I try and give it. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching Make It Custom, and welcome to the new Japhands Kustoms location, Make It Kustom. We hope to be here for a while. We're really grateful to have found this spot. We live on site and we work here, and it's in a beautiful area of BC, so we couldn't be happier. Thanks everybody for watching Make It Custom. Here's to a great year 2022. I know a lot of exciting things are gonna happen. Hopefully you can still hear this because my compressor just kicked on. So thanks a lot for watching Make It Custom, everybody. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications, and we'll see you later.